The Middle Ages. If you know anything about knights, castles, or Robin Hood, then you already know something about the Middle Ages in Europe. The Middle Ages may seem to be an unusual name for a historical period, especially one that lasted more than 1,000 years. People in the Middle Ages did not know they were in the middle of anything. They thought they were modern, just as you and I do today. In fact, the Middle Ages was not a phrase used by the people who lived during that time. It was a term modern historians use today to refer to that time period between ancient and modern times. Life in the Middle Ages was not the same as it is now. For one thing, people who lived back then probably thought about time differently. Many people measured time by the rising and setting of the sun and the passing of the seasons. For this reason, life likely had a slower, steadier pace. In addition, there was a strong desire to honor God that appeared to transcend time. As a result, people who undertook impressive, long-term projects, such as building magnificent cathedrals that took centuries to complete. Language and location helped to shape people's lives too. Because travel was so difficult, many people didn't do it. Generally, only rich, educated people in Europe traveled. Almost everyone else stayed close to home, although Latin was the language of both the church and government. Only select members of society could understand that language. Most people lived in an isolated existence. They did not travel far from home. As a result, most people communicated using the language or dialect spoken in the place of their birth. As strange as it may seem to us, certain parts of Europe villagers from places just 30 miles apart could not easily understand each other. For this reason, most people during the Middle Ages were concerned with the affairs of their village, what they owed the local lord in the way of payment, and how to ensure their place in heaven. There was another force that had a huge impact on Western European society during the Middle Ages. This force came in the form of a deadly disease. The disease, called the Black Death, or plague, certainly made its mark upon medieval Europe. This dreadful plague first appeared in the 500s. In the second half of the 1300s, it swept through Europe once again. Spread by infected fleas that lived on rodents, the Black Death probably killed 1/3 of the population of Western Europe. Despite conflicts and hardships, this period in history was also a time when people created impressive and inspiring architecture. Great castles and churches began to adorn landscape. Kings, queens, and noblemen held jousts, and court jesters entertained noble families.